Hi, Joe again. Today the issue with my 2006 Nissan Murano is that the wipers stopped turning. You could still hear the motor turning, but not the wipers. So we're going to look at what's called the windshield wiper transmission, which is another word for it is the linkage here behind me. I'll go over some basics. I've already got it torn apart, but I'll go through some basics of how I got there and then show you the part that tends to fail on systems like this. And it's not just for this car, it's for other cars also, where you lose wipers moving, because there's actually these little plastic clips that hold all this stuff together. So as you can see, I've already pulled everything apart. Basically, your first step here, this is where the driver's side wiper arm connects. This is where the passenger side wiper arm connects. What you do is you take off these little plastic caps here, just pry them up, and then you'll remove these two 14mm nuts. And then you gently rock the arm off, maybe pry from underneath if you can. You want to be very careful because there's very fine splines here. You don't want to rock these too much. You just want to work it just for a moment and it should pop straight off on both sides. Then what you do is you take this plastic shroud off that I've already put over here. This is actually spun around. So this corner here actually ends up all the way up here. There's a couple plastic clips here along the perimeter that releases that. I left it attached though over here because this is the washer spray hose supply. Next, I disconnected this plug. And what you can actually see down here, if I get the right angle, is this is part of the wiper transmission. Right here. This is part of the wiper transmission that attaches to the bottom of the motor. And as you can see, this is actually a plastic retaining clip that goes through this metal bracket. And there's actually a piece missing from it. It's actually broken. So as soon as that broke, it popped right off. So what I'll do, so basically what's happening now is the motor's spinning, arms aren't moving, because that's the main connection for the arms to move. So the next step I took is I took out this, and this. Those are three 10mm bolts, and that's going to allow me to pull out the entire wiper transmission, just like so, and turn it upside down. So now, as we're looking at this, you get a better idea. Okay, so this plastic clip here clips onto that metal knob. And then as it turns, both of these arms go back and forth, okay, to turn both of your wipers back and forth, back and forth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head down to the Nissan dealership, see if I can get me one of these clips, pop this one out, pop a new one in. Okay, so those little plastic clips aren't available separately, so what I had to do is I had to get a used part from the local used part supplier. This is the old part now. So what I purchased is called the windshield wiper transmission, or windshield wiper transmission linkage, or windshield wiper linkage. Okay? So what happens here is the motor mounts here with two bolts, and it faces downward. The stem of the motor faces downward and attaches into this armature. And this is the part that actually broke. That actually clips into this here. So basically, I unbolted the motor from this old part, put it on the new or used part, which is identical. Then I reinstalled the whole thing in reverse order as how I described the disassembly earlier in this video. Things to watch out for. When you remove this from the motor, and then you attach the motor to the new piece and reattach, you want to be careful about the alignment of this. Okay, make sure it's aligned in the same way. And then when you reinstall this, basically put your three bolts back in. One, there'll be two, a second one that's on the motor, and the third one's over here. And then what you do is similar to my video about the rear wiper assembly, is you'll turn the wipers on high for a few revolutions, then shut them off, and that way you know that the wipers are in the park position. Okay? Then you want to go reassemble your trim and everything, and then you want to reinstall your windshield wipers here. Pressing down hard, make sure they go on straight, and make sure that you can turn them just a little, and make sure that they're actually trying to turn this nut, which means that they're seated good on those tiny little threads. I'll show you what you're looking at here. So these splines here are what you want to watch out and not destroy. The wiper arm actually comes down and keys into these splines, so you want to make sure that they get seated well. And then you want to attach the nut on top, tighten it down, and it'll squeeze the arm down tighter. So do that for both sides. Do it carefully. Make sure you don't strip out those splines. Because once you strip out the splines, guess what? You got to buy a whole nother assembly. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you.